What is up, guys? Regress here with a new video, and today I want to discuss a change that I hope will be implemented into the game. I saw a lot of you guys actually ask for similar things, so today I want to discuss this topic. Currently there are a lot of controversies in the game. One of the major things that sparked this was a nerf to Merrily and Corrin. Well, not directly to Merrily and Corrin, to true damage. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, well, basically Merrily and Corrin are the best boss damage dealers, we can say, in the game, together with Odie. And one of the reasons Merrily and Corrin were so interesting were because they can deal true damage. True damage basically ignores physical defense and magical defense, so it's a great way to deal damage to bosses, which gain more physical damage and magical defense the lower their HP stat is. So they were basically pretty great for that. And could deal massive damage to bosses. We saw that with Merrily. For myself, I invested into a weapon upgrade to plus 15, and then in a video to plus 20, we saw the plus 20 upgrade didn't do much, but to plus 15, which is a massive investment, we all know that upgrading a weapon to plus 10, to plus 15, that can take quite a while from the free-to-play sources. And yeah, so I invested in this boss damage dealer. I was quite happy with it. She can still deal decent damage, but she fell off a little bit. And what basically happened was, to the start of the season, we received changes to Dream Realm. And those Dream Realm changes didn't only include new bosses and new rewards, but also changed the dynamics in the boss fight a little bit. Basically, those bosses used to gain DR, physical defense and magical defense, lower their HP stat was. And that was at a certain rate, which basically meant true damage was the most effective damage type. It was only reduced by DR, not by damage reduction, not by physical defense and magic defense, while other sources are of course reduced by physical defense and magic defense. And towards this season, this was shifted a little bit, so true damage is now reduced way more than it was before, making it a less viable way to deal damage to bosses, which doesn't mean Merrily is a bad boss damage dealer. It just means that in comparison to Odie, she's now a little less desirable. And for a lot of players this is a bit harsh, because you might have invested into Merrily, gone for Merrily, and now you find yourself in a position where you would much rather have an Odie or have some other hero to deal damage to bosses or to clear campaign or something like this. And the severity of this is not only from summoning the hero itself, but also of course from the weapon upgrades. And this specifically is something that I want to talk about today, because upgrading weapons, while being very expensive, is also quite final. It is quite final, and here we can see Odie indeed dealing more damage than Merrily. Wasn't really the case before. Usually Merrily outdamaged him quite a bit. Now Odie, even with Star Shard, which is quite neutral, outdamages Merrily, and that is quite consistent in most boss fights. So the thing that I really would like to see in this game is a way to get those resources back, to regress those weapons basically, to just set them back to +0, because sometimes you just upgrade, you invest into a hero, and then either you notice it's not really that great, or it gets nerfed, or it gets changed in some way, and you find yourself with all those resources stuck basically forever in those weapons, which I think is quite bad. And of course it would be nice to have like a button, undo, get all of those weapon levels back, and invest them into some other hero. So now I could basically take my things from Merrily, put them on Odie, which is still at +10, I would rather have him at +15, maybe even +20, and upgrade that. Of course there is a certain interest of AFK Journey to not really allow that, because, well, if you could just easily switch everything around, there are certain things that would become quite, well, how should I say, useless. You wouldn't really have to buy those packs with 100 temporal essence, or packs with like the normal title essence. This would be pretty useless if you just need the essence basically for €5, and then you could swap everything around. Maybe 4 would even be enough on some heroes. I mean, you don't really need it. So I can understand that there's a certain financial interest in this game to sell it, which might dictate some of those changes that are done in the game. Still, I think in a situation like this specifically, where we see changes to a boss, where we see changes to the game that have such an influence on this hero, changing the role in the game entirely, especially if the change is not done to a game mode where it's used. And I mean, this is kind of a special situation where we changed the Dream Realm bosses, and I mean, arguably, Merrily didn't change if we take her into a game mode other than Dream Realm, which is bad because her main role obviously is a boss damage dealer, but we could take her into an AFK stage and we would see, oh, she basically works the same as before. But specifically in a situation where we change the skill of a hero and some skills of heroes were changed, an example for this would be Florabelle. Wouldn't be a particularly good example because Florabelle arguably got better. We saw the change to her weapon, now granting 350% instead of 330. But I think in situations where we see a nerf directly to a hero, there should be a way to regress it. And might just be that they just immediately regress everything. That would be okay for me. If they just say, okay, when we change a hero, all weapons are reset. Okay, I'm fine with that, I'm cool with that. That would be okay with me. Even better for me would be if they gave us some kind of token. Some kind of token. I would be fine with that. Earn them by gameplay, maybe for some achievements, and then if a hero is changed, you gain a token that allows you to go on the weapon and just reset it, get your materials back if you want to. And if you say, okay, maybe Florabelle was changed, but I don't really mind, I rather get my resources back that I put on Sharkia a while ago and get my Sharkia weapon materials back. That would be fine as well. I think that would be a pretty cool way to do it. But obviously I want to hear you guys' opinions on that as well, especially on the implementation of such things. Maybe you're against it. That's fine as well. Personally, I would like to see this feature. For me, I think an implementation mainly oriented towards the player would be interesting. I would like to see a way that is not really monetized with a token or something that you can earn by gameplay. Maybe even completely free, or for some gems or diamonds, I'm fine with that. Not the dragon diamonds, but the usual ones. I would be very much so fine with that. And that would be a cool way for me, but you can tell me what you think about it. Would be very interesting to hear. Other than that, there are two more things that I want to show you guys. Well, one thing that I could maybe comment on as well. Some people were talking about the scarcity of resources in the update. And while I don't really want to give too much of an opinion on that, because, well, I'm a whale. And as a whale, you lack a bit of perspective. I didn't play this game free to play. And you can see those are 1,645 Omni Acorns, which basically means acorns are never of a concern for me. So I kind of lack that perspective. The only thing that I can say about it is oftentimes when we see low resources given from a specific game mode or something, where there's like 15 gems, I think it's just because they want to put those resources in there so it seems like more. For most things that we fought in this DLC, we only really got the training manuals, specific seasonal training manuals. And the other resources were just for show, you can say. Beyond that, we also, of course, have to keep in mind that we have to see how this season really turns out. This season is planned for like 4 months, which is a very long time, and rather different to the seasonal stuff we saw before, to the pre-season. Can we say that? Which is like this 1 month period before the first season came. So we have to wait a little bit and have to see how it all works out. Obviously, I mean, protesting a bit against it just to get them to maybe nudge it up a little bit, well, it is kind of a way. And if you are unhappy, you are absolutely free to voice that opinion. And I think it's good. It's better than just quiet quitting. If you say, okay, it's not that great, I don't like it, I'm unhappy with it, perfectly fine. Especially if you notice, I think people discussed that there was like a lack of those acorns. Especially if you notice that you are stuck on a certain hero and you don't see a way to go forward. I personally think that was something that I noticed as a whale for Twilight Essence during the preseason, where I said, okay, there isn't really any way in the game to get this. So I basically forwarded that to the devs and said, okay, maybe add something, which they now did, which is pretty cool. Even though it's still pretty useless to get the Twilight Essence. I think at the point when you are unhappy, you should say something about it. We will see how certain things are implemented. One example for that, and one example that will give us loot, is this Kaleido Scarab. Primal Lord awakens in 29 days, by the way, so quite a bit of time till we are going to see that guy. But it is in area 7-1 in the Crimson Highlands. We can zoom out a little bit. And of course, those our Primal Lords are going to be there, and we're going to get some rewards from them. And we are still have to see some seasonal game modes, like Dura's Trial, which we're not yet really in. We are going to get more Supreme Arena loot, the higher Resonance level gets. So there are some things where we still get loot and that we still haven't explored, and also there might be some releases during the season. We still have to wait for that. So maybe for the start of the season, perfectly fine to voice your opinion about being unhappy, I guess. But keep in mind, there will be more stuff, and we will see if that is really good. So I'm hyped for the new content. I will wait for that. I wasn't really unhappy with the rewards, but I understand the perspective that people have on Acorns on stuff, on less rewards in some game modes. But I think there are still areas of this DLC, of this season, that we haven't touched yet. So that is something maybe to keep in mind. Still, tell me your opinion about regressing weapons down in the comments. I'm very hyped to hear about this. And with that, I wish you a great day. We'll see us in the next one. My god. Okay, forgot the words. Sad.